Alright guys, so after 3 weeks of building, learning, and recording, the Drytron deck guide is finally finished. I'm sorry it took so long. I just want to make sure I got it right and picked the 5 best combos that I could come up with and find to show y'all how to use Drytrons properly and the best way to use them moving forward. Now I do know some people are visual learners and then some people like to read combos. So what I did is, prior to making this video, I went ahead and typed everything out in my Discord with its own tab. The link will be below if you want to read it while watching the video or after the video while trying to learn these combos. Please feel free to do so. Now let's get into the deck list and kind of go over what I personally use, and then we'll get into the combos. Other than that, I'll see y'all at the end of the video. Okay, so let's quickly go over this deck list. We'll be running 2 of the Evas, 3 of the Drytron Alphas, 2 of the Drytron Betas, 3 of the Drytron Gamma, 3 of the Drytron Zeta, 3 Herald of Orange Light, 3 of the Diviner, 3 Ash Blossoms, 2 Bentens, 2 Idotins, 1 Herald of Ultimateness, 1 Drytron Meteonis Draco, 3 Cyber Emergencies, 3 Drytron Novas, 1 Drytron Fafnir, 2 Twin Twisters, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Elder Entity, 2 Herald of Arclight, 1 Assembled Nightingale, 1 Kiki Nagashi, 2 Mubetas, 1 Downward Magician, 1 Beatrice, 1 Zeus, 1 Link Karibo, 1 IP Masquerina, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Borosword Dragon, and 1 Apollo. Alright, so before we get into the combo guide itself, I want to go over 5 cards you will not see in the guide itself, but play an important role in this deck. First off, we have Meteonis Draco. So Meteonis Draco is going to come in handy because it is a beefy monster. 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense, and it cannot be targeted by monster effects. It will come in handy in late game. Next, we have Cyber Emergency. Say you are 1 card off of having a good combo rolling, and you need something like Alpha, Beta, Gamma, or Zeta, you will be able to play Cyber Emergency to get that card from the deck to your hand. Next, we have Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is my personal go-to for negating Ash Blossom. Say you're lucky, you get first turn, you have a great combo in hand, boom, they pop Ash Blossom. You use Called by the Grave, you can banish and negate Ash Blossom and keep moving along with your combo. Next, we have Elder Entity. Now we'll be using this along with Diviner as a discard. What happens is say there is a problematic card on the field, you just need to get rid of it using Diviner's effect, discard Elder Entity, and pop that card on your opponent's side of the field. Lastly, we have Kiki Nagashi. Kiki Nagashi is going to come in handy if you're in a fix. Say you have 2 level 1 monsters on the field, you can overlay into Kiki Nagashi, and then you can detach 2 materials, and for the rest of the turn you cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage involving attacks with this card. So say for instance you have a face down defense monster, you can attack it even if its defense is pretty high. Seeing as you have 0 attack and 0 defense, you do not have to worry about the battle damage, and in your main phase 2 you can overlay into Zeus. Now yes, you will not be able to use Zeus's actual effect because you only have 1 material, but you will have a monster on the field with 3,000 attack and 3,000 defense. Now with that being said, let's get into this combo guide and let's keep it rolling. So in combo number 1, we're going to be focusing on having Alpha and Zeta in hand. We'll be using Alpha's effect by discarding Zeta to the graveyard to special summon Alpha to the field. And we'll be adding Ben 10 from the deck to the hand. Now we'll be using Zeta's effect in the grave to special summon to the field by discarding Ben 10 from your hand. And it'll allow you to add Medionis from your deck to your hand. And Ben 10 will allow you to add Diviner from your deck to your hand. Now you want to overlay Alpha and Zeta to make Mu Beta. And every time you make Mu Beta, you want to make it in defense mode. We're going to be using Mu Beta's effect to send Gamma from the deck to the grave. Now you can normal summon your Diviner, and by effect we'll be sending the Herald of Arclight to the grave, which will allow Arclight's effect to activate, which will allow us to add Ultimateness from the deck to the hand, activate Medionis. We're going to summon Ben 10 from the grave by using one of Mu Beta's materials. We will now overlay Ben 10 and Diviner to make Beatrice. We will now detach Diviner from Beatrice to send to the grave, which will allow us to send a copy of Eva from the deck to the grave. And we're going to activate Eva's effect, banishing Arclight and Diviner to allow us to grab one Herald of Orange Light and one Diviner from the deck and add it to our hand. You will now activate Medionis in the graveyard by lowering Mu Beta's attack by 1000 to get Medionis back to the hand. Activate Gamma's graveyard effect, and we will send Ultimateness from our hand to the graveyard. We'll now summon Gamma along with Zeta. Activate Medionis by using Mu Beta's last material, which will allow us to special summon Ultimateness from the graveyard. And now we want to link Gamma and Zeta to make IP Masquerena. And we will end our turn. Now going into our opponent's turn, we will detach Ben 10 from Beatrice. Which will allow us to send our last Eva from the deck to the grave. And use Eva's effect to banish the other Eva along with Ben 10. To add our other copies of Diviner and a copy of Orange Light to the hand. And we will use a negate here. And we now have IP Masquerena, a 0 material Mu Beta, along with a 0 material Beatrice. And we could link IP and Mu Beta, or IP and Beatrice, to make Nightmare Unicorn, to discard one and choose one of our opponent's cards to shuffle back into the deck, along with Ultimateness, originally with 4 negates, but since we did just use one, we are now down to 3 negates. For combo number 2, we're going to be focusing on Alpha, Zeta, and Idaten in hand. And this is going to come in handy if you suspect Nibiru on the opposite side of the field. So first off, we're going to start off by using Alpha's effect. We're going to discard Zeta to the grave to special summon Alpha. And then we'll add Ben 10 from the deck to the hand using Alpha's effect. Now we'll use Zeta's effect in the grave to special summon itself by discarding Ben 10 from your hand. And we'll now be able to add Medionis to our hand. And Ben 10 will add us Diviner to the hand. We're going to overlay Alpha and Zeta to make Mu Beta. And by Mu Beta's effect, we're going to send Gamma from the deck to the graveyard. Now we will normal summon Diviner and send the Herald of Arclight to the graveyard. And using Arclight's effect, we will add a copy of Ultimateness from the deck to the hand. We will now activate Medionis using one of Mu Beta's materials, and my personal preference would be to use Zeta. So keep in mind at this point we are at 4 summons with Idaten in hand. So now we're going to activate Medionis' graveyard effect and lower Mu Beta's attack by 1000 to add Medionis back to the hand. And we will activate Medionis by using Mu Beta's last material, which would be Alpha, to special summon Ben 10 from the grave. And as of right now, if your opponent was to pop Nibiru, we'd be able to discard Idaten to negate. So we will overlay Diviner into Benten to make Beatrice. We will now detach Diviner from Beatrice. To send a copy of Eva to the grave. And by Eva's effect, we will banish Diviner and Herald of Arclight. To add Diviner and Herald of Orange to the hand. We will now use Gamma's Graveyard effect by tributing Mu Beta. Which will also allow us to special summon Zeta. We will now link Gamma and Zeta into IP Masquerena. And end our turn. Now on your opponent's turn, we will detach Benten from Beatrice. Which will allow us to send Eva to the grave. And by using effect, we will banish the Eva in the grave as well as Benten. To add another copy of Diviner and Orange Light. To the hand. And now we have IP Masquerena, a 0 material Beatrice, that if we want to on your opponent's next turn, or on your current turn, you can link them off to make Nightmare Unicorn, where you can discard and choose one of your opponent's cards to shuffle them back into the deck, along with Ultimateness. And if you did not have to stop Nibiru, you would now have 5 negates. And if you did have to stop Nibiru, you would have 4 negates. For combo number 3, we'll be focusing on having Diviner and Zeta in hand. We will start out by normal summoning Diviner. And by effect, we'll be able to send the Herald of Arclight to the grave. Which will then allow us to add a copy of Benten from the deck to the hand. We will now special summon Zeta by sending Benten to the grave. Which will allow us to add Medionis to our hand. And Benten will allow us to add Idaten to our hand. We will activate Medionis by tributing Zeta to special summon Benten from the graveyard. We will now overlay Ben 10 and Diviner to make Beatrice. Once we make Beatrice, we will detach Diviner and send it to the grave. Which will allow us to send Gamma from the deck to the grave. We will now use the graveyard effect to special summon Gamma by sending Idaten from the hand to the grave. Which will also allow us to special summon Zeta from the grave. We will activate Meteonis' graveyard effects, lowering Zeta's attack by 1000 to add Meteonis back to the hand, which then we will overlay Zeta and Gamma to make Mu Beta. By Mu Beta's effect, we'll be able to send Alpha from the deck to the graveyard. And we will activate Meteonis by detaching Zeta from Mu Beta. And we will special summon Idaten from the graveyard. By Idaten's effect, it will add Meteonis back to the hand from the graveyard. We will then activate Alpha's graveyard effect. Tributing Idaten to special summon itself to the field. And Alpha's effect will now add us Ultimateness from the deck to the hand. We will then activate Meteonis using Mu Beta's last material to summon Ultimateness. You will now link Mu Beta and Alpha to make IP Masquerena. We will then end our turn, and on our opponent's standby, we'll detach Ben 10 from Beatrice to send it to the graveyard. This will allow us to send Eva to the grave. In which we will banish Diviner and Arclight to add Diviner and Orange Light to our hand. We now have IP Masquerena, a 0 material Beatrice, which those two can be linked together to make Nightmare Unicorn, to where we can discard and choose one of our opponent's cards to shuffle back into the deck, along with Ultimateness with 2 negates. We will now use Ultimateness's effect to negate the monster. And now you're ready for your next turn. For combo number 4, we're going to be focusing on having Gamma, Diviner, plus any Drytron besides Zeta in hand. We will start off by normal summoning Diviner, which will allow us to send the Herald of Arclight to the graveyard. In which by effect we'll be able to add Benton from the deck to the hand. We will then special summon Gamma by sending the random Drytron, which in this case is Alpha, to the grave, which will then allow us to special summon Alpha from the grave. We will then overlay Alpha and Gamma into Mu Beta. And by Mu Beta's effect, we'll be able to send Zeta from the deck to the graveyard. We will then use Zeta's graveyard effect to special summon itself by sending Benton from the hand to the graveyard. Which will also allow us to add Meteonis from the deck to the hand, and Benton will allow us to add Idaten from the deck to the hand. We will then activate Meteonis using the random Drytron, that is one of Mu Beta's materials, and we will use it to special summon Benton from the graveyard. Which in this case it was Alpha, so we will detach Alpha, special summoning Benton. We will then use the random Drytron's graveyard effect, special summoning itself by tributing Benton. This will allow us to add a card from the deck to the hand, and then Benton will allow us to add Ultimateness to the hand. We will then use Meteonis' graveyard effect, lowering Mu Beta's attack by 1000 to add Meteonis back to our hand. And then we will activate Meteonis by using Gamma, which is going to be Mu Beta's last material, to special summon Idaten. And when we special summon Idaten, by effect, it will add Meteonis back from the graveyard to our hand. You will now overlay Idaten and Diviner to make Beatrice. Once Beatrice is summoned, we will detach Diviner from Beatrice to send Eva from the deck to the graveyard. And we'll use Eva's effect to banish Arclight and Diviner. And that will allow us to add Orange Light and Diviner from the deck to our hand. We will then activate Meionis by tributing Zeta. And this will allow us to summon Ultimateness. Once Ultimateness is summoned, we will then link Mu Beta and the random Drytron, which is Alpha, to make IP Masquerena. We will then end our turn, and on our enemy's turn, we will detach from Beatrice, sending Idleton to the graveyard, which will allow us to send our last copy of Eva to the graveyard. In which we will use Eva's effect and we will banish Eva along with Ben 10. To add Diviner and Orange Light. We will use Ultimateness' effect to negate, because luckily we did have an Orange Light in our starting hand, so we actually have 5 negates instead of the normal 4. Then we also had an Idleton, so that would actually make it 6 instead of 4. So if you followed this properly, and we did not have an Idleton or an Orange Light at the beginning of our turn, we would have ended this with IP Masquerena, a Zero Material Beatrice, which those two can be linked together to make a Nightmare Unicorn to discard and choose one of your opponent's cards to shuffle it back into the deck, along with Ultimateness with 4 negates. So for the final combo of this video, I'm going to show you what we can do with Alpha, Diviner, plus any Drytron in the hand. We're going to be using both of our Alphas plus our Diviner. We're going to start out by normal summoning the Diviner. By effect, we're going to send the Arclight to the graveyard, which will trigger Arclight's effect to get us Meionis to the hand. We're going to special summon Alpha by sending the random Drytron to the grave. Which we'll then be able to add Idleton from the deck to the hand. We will now activate Meionis by attributing Alpha to summon Idleton. And Idleton's effect will add Meionis back to our hand from the graveyard. Now we're going to overlay Diviner and Idaten to make Beatrice. Which will then detach Diviner from Beatrice to send to the grave, which will allow us to send Eva from the deck to the grave. And using Eva's effect, we will banish Diviner and Arclight to add one Orange Light and Diviner from the deck to the hand. And then we will end our turn. Now on our opponent's turn, we will detach Idaten from Beatrice to send another copy of Eva to the grave. In which we will banish Idaten and the other Eva to add another Orange Light and another Diviner to the hand. And we will use one of our negates because we now have a 0 material Beatrice as a small wall, but we also have 2 negates and Meteornus in the hand. Negate, and now you're good to go on your next turn. So guys, I hope this kind of helped you understand the Drytron deck a little bit better. I hope you can learn the combos. They're a little bit complex, but once you practice them a little bit, you will get them down no problem. As I said before, there are tons and tons of combos you can pull off with this deck, but these were just the top 5 that I personally enjoy doing the most, that seem to work out for me the best. If you have any recommendations on what deck I should make a guide on next, put it in the comments below, because I am just completely open to whatever deck that you guys want to see. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.